Hi everyone, and welcome back to my garden. So for those of you who are new to my channel, this is the area that I'm going to be working on today, and it is the area at the top of my drive in front of my garage door. So nobody in our family ever puts the car in the garage. So what I found I had was a big expanse of white metal door and quite a boring large expanse, relatively large expanse of block paving, and that's all that was here. And I would sort of reverse the car up the drive and offload my bags of compost and everything, and things would just sort of get left at the top of the drive. So many years ago I decided that I was going to claim this area, and I started growing in containers because there is no soil. So I probably give it attention about 3 times a year. So I'll plant it out now in spring. I'll change once the bulbs are finished and everything. I'll plant it out again for a summer display, and then I'll always sort of plant it out with maybe chrysanthemums and things in the autumn. So it's very seasonal. The plants are very transitory. And I still use it as a bit of a utility area, but in general, once I've given it its first initial tidy up of the year, as you'll see, I can sort of keep on top of it. It's not as overwhelming. I very rarely buy a plant specifically for this area. I tend to dress it with plants that are already in pots in different areas of my garden, or plants that are in pots and I haven't really got a specific place in mind for them. So they sort of migrated to this area anyway. This cart here, I made this last year from an old garden lounge. I'll put the link in the description box below. And I use this area to put the plants that I buy on usually a weekly basis that are to go into the garden elsewhere. Okay, so for those of you who've seen my makeovers before, you will know that this is usually my starting point. I don't sort of tidy up for you coming. I don't give you a ta-da moment. I show you my garden as it actually is, and then I work into usually a mess and create something that I think is really pretty. So as I say, this is where I sort of dump my bags of multi-purpose compost. I've got some house plant mix there. I've got some lupins that I've grown from seed. They're ready to go out in the garden. My wheelbarrow lives here. I've got lots of containers though with beautiful bulbs coming up. They need weeding. Some wallflowers, those bulbs are actually out. Pots of geum, a hosta, which I missed because I've just split my hostas, but he looks pretty. Some beautiful viola freckles, some lovely little auriculas, garden auriculas that I bought. Let's have a look at you. Oh, gorgeous. And I bought the beautiful pot for him to go in, and oh, there's the receipt. And then he never got planted out. This was I'm not even sure whether it's a rhododendron or an azalea, and it belonged to my mom, and it always stayed at the front of her house. I've got a beautiful grass. Um, this is a climbing rose. I've got some ferns, just an array of all sorts of things. Empty paint pot there because I've been painting my bird table. And then these are all the plants that I've bought that are to go out in the garden. So I can see I've got 2 achilles. I remember buying those in the sale last year. A poppy, a foxtail fern, a rose. Just bought this beautiful heuchera. Green spice he's called. That's lovely. And I use a lot of heucheras when I dress this time of year. Right, so now I've popped down to the greenhouse because I know I've got lots of bulbs down here. So these look gorgeous. They're so heavy, those heads. Beautiful. So I've got that tub. I've also got these beautiful plants, which let's have a look what I've done here. That's Tulip Darwin Hybrid. And these haven't been living in the greenhouse, they've been living outside, but we had such strong winds yesterday that I thought, I'm going to take those in and just give them a bit of shelter. Absolutely loving these teeny weeny little ones. I mean, look, that's my thumbnail. They're smaller than that. They are gorgeous, and they are Narcissus minnow. I have these, which are some kind of fritillary. They are gorgeous, aren't they? Lovely. And this is what I do. I just go around the garden looking for things that I can use. These are some of the parent plant heucheras that I split this year. So I've got lots and lots of heucheras. I've multiplied them, but it means that the parent plant is sort of slightly smaller than it would have normally been. I think this one's called Marmalade. And then I've got some nice green ones there. All the other baby ones are in my conservatory. This is my lovely crabapple tree. He grows in a pot, and I put him at the top of the drive. And this is a beautiful little very pale blue bulb that comes up here. So now I'm going to take you around the corner to where my mother-in-law lives, and where I've used for years my late father-in-law's greenhouse. And I know that I have lots of pots of very old daffs and tulips that I've had for years, and they sort of overwinter around there. So we'll go around and we'll have a look and see what's come up in those pots, and if I can bring any of them back and use them. About a week and a half ago, I went into the shady I'll just show you. It hardly gets any light, but it doesn't matter to store your bulbs. So it looks ransacked because I have ransacked it. So this is where they were all stored. So I brought them out a week and a half ago, and this is Monty. And I put them here, which is south facing, to get a bit of sunshine. We've got lots and lots of flowers. So I don't know about you, but I get years out of my daffs, my narcissus. They just keep flowering year after year after year. Tulips, that's a different matter. They usually come up blind, so this is what we call coming up blind. You get lovely healthy leaves but no flower. Got some stunners here. So he's palest lemon in the middle. He is gorgeous. That sort of apricot colour there. But you see I've only got one flower in that whole trough there. So really the only pots that I'm going to take round to display are the ones with a lot of flowers in. So this tub here, and I can see I've got some foxgloves in there, self-seeded, and I've got some tulip leaves, but I'm not holding out any hope for them. I'll take that tub, and then I'll take this tub here as well. And then I'm around here most days, so I'll just see what else is coming up. I've got a lovely peony there coming up. So I brought my wheelbarrow. I'll put those 3 tubs in there, and I'll take these round. Right, so I'm going to work from that back corner there out over. selecting as I go which plants will stay and which won't. So you can see the fir tree at the end there has toppled over into the hedge, so there's no distinction in its shape there. So the other thing I do is I just use old chairs, old tables, anything to sort of elevate the plants and give a bit height to this area. So the wind's just blown him over. So if I stand him up like that and move him as far back as I can and separate from, so you get that cone shape. And then I'm going to take these two out of there, because what I go for is changes in height, changes in colour, and changes in texture. And I find that sort of tapestry effect is the most interesting. And this rhododendron is beautiful, and it has a tall lunaria in it as well. But what I have noticed is that in this tub here, in that tub there is a beautiful clematis growing. And once the clematis start to take off, they just grow a mile a minute. But I don't want him growing in the rhododendron. I want him to grow and fall into this old bit of tree branch here. Right, out you come. Right, you just stay there for a minute. So I have lots of these little metal stands, and I'm going to stand him on there so that he has really good drainage. Oh, they're so heavy. Oh wow, I found another hosta. I thought I had more hostas when I was splitting them the other day. Right, so the back of this rhododendron has died off quite badly, so I'm going to turn him around. And the secret to this process is not to get overwhelmed by it, because you just sort of work in little areas, get them right, and then when you step back, the whole thing looks lovely. And that's the thing, isn't it? It's so easy to become overwhelmed by the garden if you haven't got out and tidied it up when you think you should have, and everything's just starting to grow a mile a minute. That's better. So he is bright red. So in this tub here, which is just an old surplus recycling tub with lots of holes punched in the bottom, this is a beautiful climbing rose that I dug out of my back garden, where I'm now creating a white garden. I replaced him with a white climbing rose. So this one here is a pink sort of fairy rose, and I know that he grows about as tall as this trellis. He's years old, and he seems to really like this area. So I filled this container with soil from the garden that I dug him from. So he's very familiar. He's in the soil that he came out of, but consequently there are a few weeds coming up and a few little bulbs in there. But if we stand back from it like that, I think we definitely need some height and light in that corner. So what I'm thinking of is putting this tub of tulips there, because it's not in the soil. They're not in the soil, so they're not competing with the roots of the rose, because roses don't really like to share their soil with other things. Right, let me see. Does that give that enough height? Yeah. Or do we go for something like this? Right, so I hope I can keep filming, because the wind is really picking up now. and it's already blown my camera over on the tripod, so I may have to stop and start another day, but let's see. So what I'm thinking here is to put this big tub of wallflowers in. Now, I've had these wallflowers. These are probably about 2 to 3 years old. And then in here, I've changed my mind. I was going to put these tall white ones in, but I think I'll put, I'm not sure what to put in there, because what I want is a sort of layered effect. So I would have, say, those daffs there with shorter tulips in front of them, like that. Right, so over here, I've also had this for years, this lovely bit of gnarly tree, because I do like bits of wood around my garden. But what I want is I want the clematis behind the piece of wood sort of spilling forward. So I can tuck the clematis back like that into the hedge and put the wood like that, and then trail the clematis into it, and it will latch on with its little tendrils, and this wood acts as a natural support. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, so what I'm thinking here is, because I've got these orangey tulips and the little daffs with a bit of sort of orange in there, I'm going to put this tub of low growing tulips, which haven't got a label in them, but I can tell by the tips they're sort of yellowy. So it's that yellowy orange palette. So I'm going to put them in there, and then just to sort of tie it all together, I'm going to put that beautiful marmalade heuchera there. So this little cart here has to go further up. It has to butt up against there, and it's on wheels. There we go. Yeah, because on the end here I'm going to put this crabapple tree. So I'll take this basket down. He's finished. I'm going to pull the crabapple tree forward, and I'm going to put this clematis behind him, tuck him in there, and then I'm going to let him climb up this crabapple. Hi there. So it is 1 week later, hence the difference in continuity. So I don't know whether you could pick up just how much the wind was picking up in the garden at the end of at that last shot, but it blew my camera off the tripod 3 times and eventually cracked what I hope is the screen protector and not the screen. So I just had to stop, and I thought, I'll come out the next day and start filming. The wind stayed. I think we got the back end of storm. I think it was called Kathleen in the UK. We got the back end of that, and it lasted for 4 days, and then it started to rain. So in the meantime, I've noticed that all of my tulips are starting to come out. A lot of things have been blown over. So what I did was I just sort of pushed the plants into sort of a rough position and then left them. And actually, now that I look at it, I quite like this arrangement. So let's have a look. Right, what I've popped into place here is a little, I think it's a tree or a shrub, and I've had it for years, and it's called Little Baby. And I just love it because of the unusual shape of its branches, really, rather than the foliage. I'll show you in close-up later on. But what I'm thinking is I need something in this whole area here. So I'll shut this door. I do know that I need to put some more full hessian or packing around this Gothic shaped plant on the door there. The birds have been at it for their nests. So what I've got here is an acer in a smallish pot. Beautiful red one that's just coming into leaf. So in the corner of this pot where the clematis is, I can stand him. I'm not standing him on the stem of the clematis. I'm just adding a bit of interest in colour there, which is sort of replicated in the reddishness of that leaf there. And then what I was thinking was I would put this big tub of flowers there. These are narcissus. And it's no good me putting them up a height in front of the garage door because they just wouldn't show up. Right, so I can't move the camera around as I normally do because I've got it tied to the back of my husband's car to stop it falling over. So I hope you can see in this area down here where it's really quite shady and dark. I'm going to put these daffs here, and then where they've been blown and snapped, I'll just support them in there. I've still got lots of heads to come up there. I've got this gorgeous rusty plant support here, which I don't know where I'm going to put that in the garden, so I'm just going to stand him there a moment. Take this dusty miller out and put that heuchera in there just to give a pop of colour. I think the darker colours just sort of give a bit of depth. Right, and what I'm thinking in this area here, I just want to bring a bit of that oranginess down there, so it sort of goes oranges and then into the purples and mauves and then the blues and whites over there. So I'm going to take these wallflowers out for a minute, and I'm going to try putting this berberis in its place. Nice little iris there. And you know, I think that will do. And I'm finding so many lovely plants. So I've just found this, which is an oxalis, this sort of deep purpley oxalis. So he'll all spring to life. Actually, I might pop him there, give him a bit of sunshine. And a nice little geranium there. Put her in there. Right, what do you think? So I've got a holly, a big tub of aquilegia that's going to start flowering. The clematis in that week has just started climbing through this lovely branch. Some nice daffs there. These are beautiful. Aren't they gorgeous? Beautiful. Gorgeous little geranium coming up there. This is Viola Freckles. I hope you can see the freckles on it. It's gorgeous. Bit of depth of colour there with I think this is berberis, very spiky. And then we've got the lovely orangey heuchera there. These tulips are all going to come out. Nice tub of wallflowers. All these have opened up in the week, and this is why I wanted to shoot the video, because I thought, you know, another couple of days of wind and, you know, I might lose all of them. And then down here I've got my hostas. He's got a lovely purple sort of stem there, and I'm spraying these daily, the tubs and the hostas, with garlic spray. I have got a short out on that, on how to make it. So then I've gone into the purples and mauves with this, what was this one called again? Green spice. And so I'll just show you what I've done here. So I've got a lovely big clump of wallflower ready to flower there, with some kind of fur in the middle. But then a sort of patch here with a bit Sweet William at the back. But in that patch I've just stood the heuchera. That looks much better. This is the little baby. There you can see tiny little leaves. Gorgeous, gorgeous tulips opening there. And the muscari. More hostas. More viola freckles. And then the sort of blue brought up into the hyacinths here. And then these gorgeous white narcissus. The tiny little minnow. More hostas, a bit of rustiness echoed in the astilbe here. All these little bulbs just opening up in the sunshine there. And then I've started to train my clematis up and through the crabapple there. And that is the beautiful Acer, which I've just sort of stood in the corner. So it's not damaging the clematis. And just before I go, if anybody is struggling with, well, what do I do with all these pots once all of the bulbs are finished? So I've got a few suggestions that I've carried out over the years. So sometimes I just empty the pots out and plant the bulbs in the garden. So that's good. Other times, as you'll have seen earlier in the video, I've got the benefit of having an area where I can store the empty pot. Well, I can store the pots of daffs until next year. But if you really haven't got room for that, then what can you do? Well, what I do every year is when these are finished, I would deadhead them just by snapping the head off there, just where the seed head is going to come up there, so that the plant doesn't put all of its energy into making seed. The energy goes back down to feed the bulb. And then you leave all the green stems, and I give all my narcissus and tulips a good drink of liquid seaweed. So that goes down and feeds the bulb. Then these leaves will go yellow and die off, and it's what you do with them then. Well, when they have completely died off, you can just take those leaves out. You're left with the tub. Don't dig the bulbs out, and you can put other plants on top of the soil without damaging the bulb. If you look at my adding interest with heucheras, I'll put the link below. I fill all my tubs of ferns before they come into leaf with tubs of heuchera. I just use them as a base. You can do the same with your hostas when they've finished and you've just got that pot of brown earth. You can stand something on top of him. So that's what I've done in the past. All these tulips and that, you can imagine when they go down, when they're finished, you're left with a flat pot with gravel in, and you could stand that heuchera then. You could stand that heuchera on that soil, And if you do it sort of strategically and sort of soften the edges with pots of pansies and things like that, you can't tell that they're not actually planted in the soil. So there we go, eventually got it finished. I hope you like it. I'm really pleased with it. And I hope it's given you some ideas maybe to look at different spaces in your garden differently, areas where you might not have even considered putting plants, like the tops of your drives, in front of your garages. And oh, I've just noticed, I'm going to show you this just to end on. So all of the blossom on the crabapple is out, and I don't think that was out a week ago when I was showing you the crabapple tree. It's just so pretty. So until next time, thank you so much for watching, and happy gardening. Bye.